Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for Friday, November 12th, 2021. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing Adeoye Jr. Joining me is my PS I Love You XOXO co-host, Game Onesis, aka Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's good?
Not much, just starting off this morning with a little groove, a little jam playing there. How you doing, Janet?
I'm pretty good, excited to talk about the news. It's Friday, so, nothing but good stuff.
It's Friday, nothing but good stuff. Good stuff like GTA Trilogy being pulled from PC, which isn't a good thing, actually. We're going to dive into that. We're also going to dive into some Halo Infinite rumors and more because this is Kind of Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday at 10 a.m. live right here on twitch.tv/Kind of Funny Games. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. If you're watching live, you can correct us when we get stuff wrong by going to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. If you don't want to watch live, you can watch later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or you can listen later on podcast services around the globe by searching for Kind of Funny Games Daily. Remember, you can use Epic Creator Code Kind of Funny on all Epic Store and Epic in-game purchases like Rocket League and Fortnite to help support the channel. To be a part of the show, to patreon.com/Kind of Funny Games, where bronze members or above get to write in, and silver members or above get the show ad-free with the exclusive daily post show. Housekeeping for you, our Disney Plus Day reactions are up on YouTube. That is Tim, Joey, Kevin, Andy, and Nick reacting to all of the Disney Plus Day announcements, including She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and more. And I should correct myself, all the Marvel Studios Disney Plus Day announcements, they didn't react to the biggest announcement of the day, which was the return of the Proud Family and the trailer dropping. And God, Janet, did you watch Proud Family back in the day?
Yeah, I watched Proud Family. It was pretty good.
Did you see the new trailer for the new Proud Family?
No, is it like a reboot? What are they doing with that?
It's a reboot, but it's the same characters, the same family. I think they're adding some new characters because I saw some new castings for like Tiffany Haddish is in there along with some folks. Lil Nas X is in there. They have a whole slew of cameos and guests and actors. But it looks slightly better. It is like reanimated or not reanimated. It's animated in a new style, but it still looks
similar.
great.
Like it looks
Yes.
really good for what it is, right? Like
Exactly.
It looks like a revamp. It kind of looks like a like when they redo a game, but like from the ground up.
Yeah, like it looks like a remaster, but it is going to be new
remaster.
content. Yeah, it is going to be new content though. And so I'm really excited about that. That's the one thing I saw today that, aside from the Marvel stuff, that I saw and I was like, oh, let's go. I'm definitely going to watch this. There's also the Will Smith National Geographic thing that piqued my interest because I loved Will Smith, but I don't necessarily want to watch him doing the National Geographic thing. I don't know. It reminds me of the Jeff Goldblum show that dropped on Disney Plus that all of us said we were going to watch, but I don't know anybody that watched it.
Fair. Yeah, what you just described is like my dad's ultimate show, I think. The like Will Smith and National Geographic. He loves nature stuff and he loves Will Smith. Really loves Will Smith. So I think he'll be into that at least.
Like right now, Kevin is showing the visuals for the new Proud Family trailer. And again, it looks very similar in style, but it just looks really polished. It looks really touched up. I really like how it looks. But yeah, the Marvel stuff seems very exciting. Of course, shout out to Moon Knight. Can't wait for that. Can't wait for She-Hulk. Can't wait for X-Men 97. A lot of good announcements in there, and of course we reacted to them. When I say we, I mean the Kind of Funny like screencast crew, the typical crew, right? Tim, Joey, Kev, Andy, and Nick all reacted to it. That's going up on youtube.com/kindoffunny. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Pranksy and Blackjack. Today we're brought to you by Shin Megami Tensei 5, Credit Karma, Raycon, and Arcane, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 5 stories today.
A baker's dozen.
Starting with our number one. Janet, we've been talking about it all week, that this next episode of PS Love You XOXO going up next week is going to be our GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition review, where me and you, we're playing through right now. I'm playing a lot of San Andreas. I played way more yesterday than I even expected to play. I got all the way to San Fierro just yesterday. I know that you're playing some of that GTA Vice City, and Barrett Courtney is playing some 3, and so we're going to have some good conversations about how that GTA Trilogy is coming along, and our full review is going to be up next week for PS Love You. But our story number 1 is kind of a precursor to it because we have news regarding the PC release of the game specifically. Story number 1, GTA Trilogy has been pulled for PC, and the Rockstar launcher is broken. I'm pulling from John Walker at Kotaku. And before I even get into it, Janet, have you been keeping up with the impressions of GTA Trilogy thus far?
Very vaguely. Like, it's been a weird mix of people being like, this is cool because like it's GTA, and then people being like, the fingernails look weird. So that's pretty much been my overview of people's vibe with the GTA Trilogy.
Yeah, it's been interesting this first day of the game being out because reviewers and publications didn't get access to GTA codes until the day of launch. And so we're experiencing it at the same time as everybody else. And it's been this fun thing of sifting through the like impressions and sifting through a lot of the reactionary stuff and people being like, it's the worst thing ever, or other people being like, it's the best thing ever, and trying to figure out like what is this thing exactly. And again, we're gonna dig into it a lot on Monday, but I think one of the bigger takeaways is from this news story about the Rockstar launcher being broken and how the PC port is just unplayable right now. So I'm pulling from John Walker at Kotaku. Something has gone very, very wrong since yesterday's launch of GTA Trilogy on PC. As of last night, all mention of a PC version has been removed from Rockstar's own site, and the Rockstar Games Launcher app has gone completely offline. Anyone who bought the remastered collection before it vanished is currently unable to play. It has been at least 18 hours since the sudden disappearance of the PC's GTA Trilogy, and Kotaku can confirm that the launcher is not working, which means all Rockstar PC games, including Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA Online, are currently impossible to play. For whatever reasons, Rockstar chose to remove all versions of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas from alternative PC stores, including Steam, ahead of this launch, meaning its bespoke software is now the only way to buy and play the games, or indeed the only way to not play it. Rockstar support Twitter has described this as being, quote, temporarily offline for maintenance, saying services will be back as soon as this is complete. Except it said this some 18 hours ago, on the big launch day for the remastered versions of the first 3D Grand Theft Auto games. Astonishingly, the account then went silent for 15 hours before early this morning finally acknowledging that the problem hadn't gone away. Quote, we thank you for your patience and understanding as we continue to work on restoring services for Rockstar Games Launcher and supported titles, end quote. The normally chatty support account has also stopped replying to anyone's messages since this incident started, no matter the topic. We've contacted Rockstar for more information and will update should they respond. Kotaku has tested more recent GTA and Red Dead titles that remain on Steam, and they too cannot launch, tied in as they are to Rockstar's game launcher. Janet, this seems fairly disastrous for Rockstar.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that it's so rough of a launch in a couple ways, right? Because there's this PC issue, and then obviously there's at least a conversation to be had around the quality of the remasters, whether, how much attention to detail there was or wasn't, just people really staring and doing comparison shots of the assets and everything, and the kind of even the people I think who are enjoying it, which I find myself to be like enjoying the collection just fine, but it does feel like this could have been better than it was, and it just isn't for some reason, which isn't like the best vibe, especially when you're such like an established company. I think a lot of people have, a high standard for these games, and then the fact that they're a known quantity, I think people are a little bit less forgiving because they're remasters. So it's like, why is this such a difficult process for y'all to get out the door?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's one that is heightened just based off of the entire process of what the release of these trilogies have been. Because we got the rumors starting off the like us getting to know there's a Rockstar GTA trilogy thing happening, right? Those came through rumors. Kotaku and others were reporting about it. Then we got the announcement, which felt very barren in terms of actual info. I remember talking to you. I think we are always the GTA crew now on Fridays whenever this Rockstar news pops up, where we were talking about how, okay, cool, we got the announcement, but like, what do these games look like? Are they remasters? Are they remakes? What can we expect? Do we have to temper our expectations? Should we expect the world? Then we got screenshots and we got a trailer and we got a few more tidbits. Nothing that was super substantial in terms of letting us know what this thing is. And so many of us, I think, are realizing what this is now that we're actually getting our hands on it. And I don't think that's not the best way to market your thing, right? That is not the best way to inform your audience and bring them into this new thing that you're releasing. I think that feeds into a lot of skewed expectations in terms of what this thing should be and what it actually is. And there are a lot of different problems here and there to talk about with the GTA trilogy definitive versions. But when you have all of that and then a big section of your audience just can't play the game, that becomes heightened in a way that in a way that becomes this went from a problem to now, oh shit, like we got a real problem here, right? This is not good. And even I was talking to Andy about this because I helped distribute codes for the Kind of Funny team, and Andy was the person that was like, hey, can you give me a PC code? And he hit me back and he was like, hey, I think there's problems with my code, like I don't know what's going on here. And it turned out to be part of this PC thing, and to this day, to this moment, he's not able to play Grand Theft Auto on PC, and that is sucky, right? That is terrible, especially for the version of the game which should be the version that people should look forward to the most in terms of the technical aspects of it, right? This should be the version that is the shining version in terms of how it runs, in terms of if you have the best PC rig, you should be able to get the best out of it. And people be not being able to actually experience that, I think is a huge bummer. And it's wild, and I think it mainly comes back to the question of why does Rockstar have their own games launcher if it's not going to be good? The fact that the launcher going down also means that GTA Online isn't working for PC. The fact that means you also can't get a bunch of other Rockstar games to work on PC right now. That's wild to me, and it makes me wonder, why do you have a launcher in the first place if you can't get it to work?
Yeah, and like you mentioned already, like it's definitely such an L for the community that is on PC playing, which I think is probably one of the most like dedicated in terms of having a really specific vision on how they want to play these games. Because, you know, if you're getting it on console, obviously not everyone has all the consoles, but usually it's just like, you know, you pick one of the consoles that you want to play it on. There's not really a lot more thought that goes into it. Like I went with PlayStation because of, you know, our show for PS I Love You. And then also just because I'm like, yeah, the trophies could be fun. Like if I would decide to go for a platinum, but there wasn't any additional reasons versus the people that I've talked to who wanted this on PC were like, I just feel like this game needs to be played on PC. Like this is how I've always played them. And they had like such a vision for it. So yeah, that's super unfortunate. But this is also why I don't play stuff on PC. Like I feel like I just hate going through, not that console is like perfect or anything like that, but like going through any of like the technological drama that comes with the highs. Like the tech highs of PC are so high, but the lows are also so low. So I'm just like not ever going to be involved in it. But yeah, I mean, hopefully they get this fixed. I think it's pretty crazy that it really just took down everything they have too currently. So it's just kind of an awkward moment, and you know, we'll see how they handle this and what it means for the future. I definitely think it puts a little bit of a damper on any other, you know, remasters or revisitations of titles that they may do. And I also just really hate that they didn't give out any codes early. Like I found that to be a very odd choice. Again, I think people like to put on the conspiracy theory cap of they knew it was going to be bad, so they didn't get. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they didn't give early access because they decided they didn't want / need to, nor did they need to, right? Like we kind of all know what these games generally are. Like I don't think they need the additional marketing necessarily, but I think it definitely puts like a dark cloud over any future stuff they end up doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to point out, because as I've been playing through the trilogy, I've been thinking about this myself, and I've been talking to folks like Barrett. You know, Barrett's been like, "Yo, watching me stream the game and him playing the game himself, he's like, dude, I want them to do the same thing for Bully, right? Or like, what if they did? I'm like, dude, what if they did the same thing for the Warriors game that came out for PS2? What if they did the same thing for Midnight Club? I'm somebody who wants to see more of these types of remasters, because I think ever since Blue Point really went far with Shadow of the Colossus and Demon Souls, I think that has shined a new light on what a brilliantly done remaster slash remake, whatever you want to call this tier of redoing a game, is. And I think there's something awesome about that. I think there's something awesome about going back to Los Santos and seeing it in a new light because the lighting engine is completely redone, right? Like I think there's something super fantastic about going back to Shadow of the Colossus, and all of a sudden the colossi that I'm facing off against have a brand new scale to them, because they're redone they're redone with graphics that speak to, hey, this is a PS4 game now instead of a PS2 game now, right? Like I think there's something really cool and fantastic about that. That was the thing I loved about playing Mass Effect for the first time earlier this year with Mass Effect Legendary Edition. You know, those are inherently the same games. Nothing in terms of gameplay really changed dramatically, but the fact that those visuals were updated to make him into something that I feel like I can appreciate and love in 2021, I think that goes far for a lot of people, and I'm somebody that likes to see that kind of stuff. But there's a lot in terms of how they're treating this PC version of the game. Yeah, code's not going out early for reviewers. How that kind of paints the way that their audience views them in terms of, oh, did you guys know this is going to be bad? Did you guys think this is going to be bad? Did you guys know this is going to be like mixed? I think that paints a lot of this in a bad light. And I think it's a bummer, because there's a lot of good things to say about this remaster. There's also a lot of like things to pick on, like character models and shit that aren't entirely the best. But yeah, no, it's been an interesting launch, to say the least. This is not. It's kind of a bummer, I think, just in terms of how much of this I think could have been avoided just by being a bit more traditional and maybe taking your time with this port a little bit, or advertising it better, or getting into people's hands. Like, there's a lot of things that you could have done that you didn't do, and it's leading to, I think, quite a bit of disappointment for fans. Janet, let's continue on with the Roper Report with story number 2. Halo Infinite multiplayer. There is a rumor that says it'll launch early for Halo's 20th anniversary. I'm pulling from Connor Sheridan at GamesRadar. The Halo Infinite multiplayer could launch on November 15th to mark the series' 20th anniversary, if these rumors are to be believed. The latest product of the Halo Infinite rumor mill is so enticing, you'll probably want to believe it too, as Halo.api on Twitter claimed that Halo Infinite multiplayer will officially go live on November 15th, the 20th anniversary of Halo Combat Evolved. The account hasn't said what specifically has led them to this conclusion, though others have joined in on pushing it as a sure thing. This rumor should be taken with a barrel of salt and left to cure for a while, especially as it's coming out of nowhere. But at the very least, it does seem fair to say that Microsoft and 343 Industries may have all the elements they need to make this happen. Halo Infinite's multiplayer tests were very well received, and 343 Industries said that the version of the game they were based on was months behind their current production version. Since the multiplayer portion of Halo Infinite is free to play, it wouldn't disrupt pre-order plans for the full game, instead serving as both a celebration of the anniversary and another way to build excitement for the campaign debut. The big counterpoint is the question of why Microsoft would bother moving up its timetable just a few weeks when the official release date of December 8th is already so close. As such, it still feels pretty unlikely. But you better believe we'll be keeping an eye on the Xbox 20th anniversary event stream to see if this particular dream comes true. Now, Janet, you and I can talk about this all day in terms of, is this true? Is this not true? Does it make sense to celebrate Halo's anniversary this way? Yada yada yada. But me and you are just the hosts of one of the well-known PlayStation podcasts on the internet. And so I'm going to reach out to somebody by the name of Snowbike Mike, aka Snowbike Michael, aka Snowbike Michelangelo, aka Snowbike My Chemical Romance, as the host of the Kind of Funny Xcast, to ask, is there any credence to this, Mike? Do you believe that Halo Infinite multiplayer could drop for the 20th anniversary?
Blessing and Janet, thanks so much for having me on today. I would approach this with a big barrel of salt, as this article has said. I'm going through the Reddit right now, and it does look like this leaker does have some credibility. A lot of people are pointing to this person in particular, Halo API, dropping a lot of news about multiplayer maps before even IGN dropped their multiplayer maps information. So it does seem like they have a decent track record, and I'm putting that up in quotation marks. I personally don't see this rumor as to be true. It just doesn't add up. 3 weeks ahead of the initial launch with multiplayer maps, I think you'd be giving away a lot of the awesome weapons, a lot of maybe the story beats that you could possibly see told through the story or through the multiplayer world. But there's a lot that goes into this, right? November 15th is the 20th anniversary of Halo, and it's something that we've talked about on the Xcast as this is a missed opportunity with Halo being pushed back a full year, now being pushed to December. It's kind of a letdown on the Xbox side, right? This is a day that you wanted to celebrate Xbox and more specifically Halo, which was really important. So when I look at this, there's a couple things that come to mind. Of course, I don't know where this rumor came from, nor does it seem like Halo API wants to point to any sources or really anything besides a tweet that just says, look out for Halo on November 15th. This is going down. But I will say this, friend of the show, Jez Corden from Windows Central, has dropped a tweet a while back that says, you know, Xbox fans definitely want to watch this Xbox 20th anniversary stream on the 15th. And that's one of those where Jez could be alluding to a certain game being shown off. Maybe it is around a Halo, but I could see two things happening. One, a Halo flight, right? We could see another one coming out with maybe just one map, very simple, very clean, run it through the week. This is something I talked about with Gary and Paris. I think that would get a lot of Halo fans hyped and excited. And also, you know, we could do one more little mini test that gives us 3 full weeks to return to the drawing board to make sure we're good for, of course, launch. And then on the flip side, when you look at it, if this was to be true, you put a big dagger through Battlefield 2042's heart. We've talked about the big three a lot on this show and on, of course, Xcast, where you have Call of Duty that launched first. You now have Battlefield up next, and then Halo a month behind the two of them. Battlefield is on some shaky ground with what their pricing structure is, their game so far after their first initial beta. People are getting in with the pregame right now, but man, that would be just devastating to Battlefield if Halo was to do that 5 days before its initial launch on that 19th date.
Do you think there's strategy there? Do you think that's something that Microsoft might want to do? You know, like as the competing first person multiplayer shooters in the space, right? Like you mentioned it. It is Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Halo this fall. Do you think Halo having a full multiplayer release or a flight test? Because I think I'm right there with you that I think a flight test could make sense in terms of getting people hyped and like being like that last big marketing push before the actual game launches in a few weeks. Do you think that's something that Microsoft might want to do with all those factors combined?
Microsoft, since the reign of Phil Spencer, has been really more on the we like to play nice with everybody, right? So I don't think it would look to put the dagger in the heart of them, especially because Microsoft is actually doing it right. They are going to release a month after Call of Duty and Halo. So as you guys both know, Call of Duty has the normal cycle of everybody's very excited about the new game for about a week to 2 weeks and then quickly gets burnt out on the repetitive public game nature. And then on the flip side, the same will go for Battlefield. It will have the 1 to 2 week hype cycle. And then we'll move into Halo, which is really poised to do quite well, being the last out of the 3 to launch right before the holidays. It is free multiplayer on all of its ecosystem. So that's a really big thing of having this free to play multiplayer. So I don't think Halo at all needs to launch before Battlefield. It might be a different story if it was a $60 release, $60 and $70. But as of right now, Halo is sitting pretty at that December 8th launch date and does not need to jump. But it would make massive waves and probably disturb a lot of sales for Battlefield if this was to come out this week on Monday.
Shannon, what about you? What do you see happening on the Halo 20th anniversary? Do you think Microsoft drops anything for Halo Infinite?
I think at the most you'd see is something like what was already mentioned, like a test flight or a beta of some sort. Like I think releasing it before the release doesn't that would kind of shock me. I don't think it makes like a lot of sense other than like, getting out the door for competition's sake. But then in that case, maybe you would have done that for the entire thing, right? I think it'd be weird to also sort of inadvertently piecemeal the launch of the game as well. So yeah, I think the most would be like some form of test flight beta thing. Like it is odd to see too, like a rumor where it's like nothing else. This was just stated, right? But and obviously, Mike, thank you for bringing in the context of this leaker and like their sort of track record. So they have that going for them. But the way this is written, where it's like nothing else was said, it was just stated. It's like, Is this a rumor or is this like maybe a thought / desire? Because I think sometimes like people inadvertently conflate like rumors with predictions or things that you might want to have happen or kind of guesses, and those are different things. Usually like rumors, like, and that's why rumors are usually like the differentiation is them being substantiated to some degree of, even just saying like they heard this from a source. Like you don't need to name who is there or where you got it from, but just an illusion, helps go a little bit of the way. But for this to just be kind of unceremoniously dropped, it's like, I don't know. I'd find that kind of surprising. Anything's possible, but if I had to bet money, I would say no.
Mm-hmm. Mike, you mentioned earlier story stuff and how like releasing a full multiplayer suite for Halo Infinite before the actual campaign launches might allude to story stuff that you might want to bundle together. In Halo traditionally, does Halo campaign stuff feed into multiplayer heavily in terms of actual details of locations and story moments and stuff? Like how does that stuff feed together?
When I look back on it, I don't think there's huge make or break moments tied to the story and multiplayer map specifically. But I think for a Halo, junkie, the big Halo fans, you will get your hands on the guns, the weapons really early. And that might be a little bit of a, man, I'm seeing all of this before I was supposed to see it with Master Chief, which kind of rubs off the big surprise and the wow factor of a number of these things. But they are going to be telling a story through this multiplayer. We have seen that they're going to make their own story with the Lieutenant and the Spartans. They're going to tell a story with this. And I'm sure there's going to be little ties to Master Chief and what Halo Infinite's all about, whether they be massive or not. There will be small little moments. And it's kind of one of these things of like, man, do I want the wow factor of being Master Chief and finding these special weapons that we haven't quite gotten our hands on or seen yet in multiplayer a full month ahead of release? And that's the one thing I worry about is, as much as I would love to play Halo multiplayer right now and jump into it, I don't want that wow factor to be gone, especially when we know that this Chief story is so important right now with 343.
Now, Mike, I want to keep you on for a second because our next news story is another Xbox news story that I know you probably have a lot to talk about. But before we get there, I want to remind everybody that you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames where you can get the show ad-free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Arcane, a Netflix original series from the creators of League of Legends. Arcane is a 9-episode, 3-part series that follows the story of 2 young girls, Vi and Powder, born in the Undercity beneath Piltover. Their eagerness to prove themselves will set in motion a series of events that will take the relationship to its breaking point and transform them forever. This is going to be the animation event of the year, and you can catch champions we know and love like never before, and their stories will all intertwine in this action-packed series. Whether you're a longtime League player or brand new to Runeterra, Arcane is a great way to get to know the vast world and origins of iconic characters of League of Legends. Dive into the stories behind one of the most played games of all time. Every once in a while I think about that and it blows my mind. Discover the secrets of Piltover and its Undercity and prepare for the epic battle that is only just beginning. Arcane is now streaming exclusively on Netflix. Next up, shout out to Credit Karma. Is it time for a big change? If you're thinking about home renovations or finally paying down those old credit card bills, Credit Karma can help find a loan that works for you. Whether you're refinancing credit card debt or paying for an upcoming expense, Credit Karma uses your credit data to show you fresh personal loan offers that are personalized just for you. It's totally free and easy to sign up for a Credit Karma account with no effect on your credit score. On Credit Karma, you can check out multiple loan offers side by side with easy to compare estimated terms to make sure you get the best deal. And once you've got a loan, Credit Karma will help you track your progress as you pay off your debt and even let you know if you can refinance and save. If you're ready to apply, you should head over to creditkarma.com/loan offers to see personalized offers with your approval odds right now. Go to creditkarma.com/loan offers to find the right loan for you. That's creditkarma.com/loan offers. Next up, shout out to Shin Megami Tensei 5. It's the newest installment in the acclaimed JRPG series developed by Atlas. You play as a high school student who is suddenly transported from modern day Tokyo to a post-apocalyptic world. Granted a cursed power to save his life, the protagonist becomes a new being, neither human nor demon. Nahobino. So there you go. Explore the demon-infested wasteland of an enigmatic realm known as Da'at, filled with mythical deities and demonic tyrants in constant conflict for survival. Search for answers and forge your own path in a battle between light and dark. Your choices will dictate the fate of the world. Turn formidable foes into worthy allies by recruiting them, then fuse them to create demons customized to your playstyle. Shin Megami Tensei 5 has been fully rendered in 3D, a first for the mainline Shin Megami Tensei series. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is out now. You can check out the digital, deluxe, and standard editions on the Nintendo eShop or by clicking in the link in the description. And finally, shout out to Raycon. It's never too early to start holiday shopping, especially not when you can save big on a gift that they'll use every day, like the Raycon wireless earbuds. My brother's been using these. He's been training for his marathon, and he's been jamming with the Raycons. With seamless Bluetooth pairing and a comfortable noise-isolating fit, you can start listening easily and keep listening for hours. The audio quality is just as good as a bunch of the other premium brands, but at half the price. Their new everyday earbuds come with 3 new sound profiles to make sure everything you're listening to sounds its best. Pure, more balanced mode, and base mode. And with 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life, you can't lose. Go to buyraycon.com/KFGD today to unlock exclusive deals up to 20% off your Raycon order. But hurry, this offer is available only for a limited time and you don't want to miss it. That's buyraycon.com/KFGD to unlock up to 20% off your Raycons. Buyraycon.com/KFGD.
And we're back. During the ad, I saw somebody in chat say, Shin Megami, you're the only 10 I see. And I really like that. I really like that. That was really good. Let's continue on the Roper Report with story number 3. 1 versus 100 is in the works at Microsoft. I'm pulling from Jeff Grubb at GamesBeat. Be cool, everybody, because 1 versus 100 may soon make a comeback. The company's Altspace VR team is working on the project with full support from the Xbox Games division. The original 1 versus 100 was a television game show that aired on NBC beginning in 2006. But around the same time, Microsoft launched an interactive version for Xbox Live players. The game would pick players from the audience to fill in the role of 1 and the 100. These two sides would then fight against one another during a trivia battle. Now Microsoft is aiming to bring that back. Altspace VR most recently made headlines for its Mesh project that creates a micro-sized metaverse in Microsoft Teams. The plan is to take similar avatars from that product and use them to build a new version of 1 versus 100. The project comes from the same team that created the VR support for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and while Microsoft still has no plans to create its own Xbox VR headset or anything along those lines, it is still embracing Altspace VR's efforts. Xbox executives are excited about 1 versus 100 and want to loop it back into Xbox Live. This is something that Xbox boss Phil Spencer teased back in 2020. Quote, maybe we should even be building our own trivia game, like from our past, that allows people to play a trivia game more often. Maybe that could happen, Spencer said during a FanFest event last October. Now, Mike, this is why I kept you here, because I've heard you and I believe the XCast crew bring up and talk about 1 versus 100 and ask for its comeback. What does this do for you? Does this make you excited?
Super excited, Blessing and Janet and everybody out there. This is something on November 15th I would look forward to way more than the possible rumor of Halo, because this seems way more likely. All right. But truly and honestly, this is something special to Xbox fans all around the globe. If you were a part of that back in the 360 era, you remember a lot of these moments where Xbox really pushed Xbox Live and connectivity and being with your friends. You can think about times where you were in the Netflix theater watching movies with your friends and the avatars that you created, and now 1 versus 100. And this is something that's really, really special. And, Janet and Bless, I'll be honest with you, it's better late than never. I thought that 1 versus 100 would have been better last year or the year before, when we were really in the thick of COVID, right? When we were stuck inside and we wanted to all be together, and we needed these moments like the Tiger King that you think about, where everybody was together talking about one single thing, right? And so this is something where, yeah, I wanted this last year, the year before, when we really needed it. Now, when we look forward to it, right, I think this will be great. I think this will be fun. There's a lot of questions of like, who will host it? How will they do this? We did see the avatars in use with Microsoft and what they're doing over there with Teams and that kind of metaverse style. But this is something, Bless and Janet, if this becomes true in reality, this is something you want to circle, you want to tell all your friends and family about, and you want to get and be a part of it, because it's awesome.
Mike, can you describe how it works? Because the article here mentions that the players would take the role of the 1 in the 100, and this is I always knew that 1 versus 100 was like a trivia game. It was this fun, it was this fun big trivia game that dealt like that took place in real time as you were playing against other players. Is it 1 person versus 100 people, and how does that work?
Correct. There's one person that is the actual person out on the stage, and then there's the audience against them, which is really,
Okay.
really exciting. And the questions would get progressively more and more difficult. People would be eliminated as they go. But that's something where it's really cool, because you would tune in and try to be a part of the 1 or the 100 or the audience beyond that, with certain time slots and everything. And this is something that's like really, really cool, because it brings everybody together at like appointment viewing is what we call that, right? Appointment viewing. And that is something that's really special. So yeah, it's a mass game show that everybody tries to be a part of, and you get certain areas that you can be of, whether it be the audience, the 100, or the 1 who is selected to have some fun. But it is a big trivia game, which is cool.
If you're the 1, do you get like more lives? Or is the 100, is that based on like voting? Like how do they balance it so that it's not like 1 person gets like dominated every single time by 100?
I don't know. I never got to be the 1. Let's say
Okay.
that. So I
You never
don't
got
know
to be
what
the
it looks
Neo.
like from the 1. Yeah. And I don't remember what it really looked like from back then, but it was something very special, because they had Microsoft points and rewards up
Oh,
for
that's cool.
grabs if you won, right? So like the further you'd go, you won and you got awesome stuff. So I would see them doing that again with something really, really cool.
Jana, what does this do for you? Does this get you excited?
Yeah, a little bit, just because I like trivia stuff and I like things that are gamey but not quite games. Like, I think there's not as much done in that space in general. So whenever stuff like that pops up, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm also like thinking about like how the logistics of the 1 versus 100, having not seen it like back in the day when it originally had surfaced. Maybe the 1 person's just really good. Like, that's how they know. They just know to pick like the most expert person to face off against the 100 people. But yeah, I think stuff like this is really cool. So and it's nice to see it come back, in the sense that, listening to XCast and checking out like what the community feels about it, and knowing that it was such a big deal and such a demanded thing, that yeah, bringing this back, I think it totally makes sense.
Chat, let me know. Kind of funny in the comment section you're wrong if you have more context on how who the one is, because somebody in chat mentioned that like the one is just you, like you're the one, and then you're facing like 100 people. Let me know if that's how it works, or if there's actual like more to it. Either way, I'm totally in for this. I love these weird kind of trivia games. I forget the name of the trivia game last year that we all here got addicted to for like a good couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, you were really into that.
I was really into it, and like everybody dropped off from it at the same time. But like the kind of funny audience got so into it that we would like just randomly matchmaking would end up running into each other, like running into other kind of funny best friends, because we just filled that trivia pool. Trivia Royale, trivia crack? No.
HQ Trivia?
HQ Trivia wasn't HQ Trivia the one that had a live host to it?
I don't know. I'm just looking at chat.
HQ Trivia was like the dude that would like host it was like at noon every single day, and he would host like a round of 10 questions, and the questions would get harder, and like the last remaining people would split like a pool of like $100. I loved HQ Trivia. Trivia Royale is what I'm thinking of. And yeah, that was such a fun time, and I love the idea. I think this would make sense more as an HQ Trivia type thing, where you get a host, maybe it's a guest host every week, maybe it's a different host every week, or like a rotation or something, or maybe you find somebody and you hire them as a weekly host for Microsoft 1 versus 100. You know, like get Mike, who are some good like host people? Get Mike all over there.
Paris Lilly, Khalif Adams, I'd like to see. My good friend Malik Prince, I'd like to see up there. Of course, you get Major Nelson himself. You get him up there with Jeff. Would be a lot of fun. But yeah, after that, then I dip into the barrel. You know what I mean, Janet? I started looking at the Ryan Seacrests. Okay, I'm looking at the Regis Philbins. I don't know. I'm going crazy, baby. So yeah, something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm all about that. I love this too, because they mentioned here in Jeff's article. It mentions that Microsoft talked about, or Phil Spencer talked about a while ago, wanting to build a trivia game, and like the idea of how do you feed that back into Xbox Live? And I think there's so much potential there in building Xbox Live as something a bit more, I think, like a bit personal, right? A bit like more connected, a bit like more interactive in terms of treating it like a social media service, as opposed to this thing where you're purely just logging into your Xbox just to play online. This is something that I've wanted from PlayStation before, right? PlayStation had PlayStation Home on the PS3, and you know that was a shot and a miss, but I do think there's a lot of good ideas there in terms of creating additional ways to interact with the platform and give me more reasons to log on. What if I can log into my PlayStation Home and get more rewards and unlock cool cosmetics that I can put in my PlayStation home? I think there's a lot of fun ideas there, but I think that has to start with a nugget of something that is a bit more interesting and engaging. And I think doing it in a trivia way gives people that, oh man, it's Wednesday at noon, it's time for 1v100, let's all sit down and do this thing together. And I think that's really fun, right? And the higher you get, the more cosmetics you can earn for your avatar, or the more like achievement points or whatever thing that they're giving out for it you earn. I think there's something really cool there, and I think that could be really fun, and so I'm all about that. And there's also, we've been asking, I think, for a similar thing on PS Love You, Janet, for was it the Buzz quiz games for PlayStation?
Probably.
I forget the exact. I think people in chat are talking about Buzz Royale. Or no, I see. I'm looking back. No, I think it was Buzz. Buzz is what I'm thinking of for PlayStation.
Or and also like, on the PlayStation side of things, the what was that show I had texted you about? Was it called The Tester on PlayStation?
I think it was The Tester.
Was it? Yeah, like okay. So the show itself was like a mixed bag, right? Like I don't think that could air in the same way and be like taken the same way. Having seen like one of the episodes on YouTube, but the questions themselves were super fun. Like I really enjoyed like playing along with that, just like watching it, you know, so many years after the fact. So something like that would be really cool, I think.
Yeah, that's what I want. I know that stuff was, I think, weird.
Without the house, like don't put the weird fighting to get a job as a QA tester. Okay, anyway, but
yeah, weird premise, and like a lot of the stuff was, I think, a bit weird during the PS3 era in terms of that type of stuff, but I kind of miss it though. Like I think it did add a lot of personality to the platform and a lot of character, and so like yeah, I love the idea of 1v100, and I want them to bring back like a Buzz type thing for PlayStation as well. Let's talk about story number 4. Assassin's Creed's lead writer has returned to Ubisoft. This is Andy Robinson at Video Games Chronicle. Darby McDevitt, the Assassin's Creed series' most prominent writer who left Ubisoft earlier this year, has rejoined the company, VGC can reveal. During more than a decade at Ubisoft Montreal, McDevitt created stories and dialogue for Assassin's Creed games, Revelations, Black Flag, Unity, Origins, and Valhalla. McDevitt left Ubisoft in March, stating that he wanted to take on a quote new adventure. However, after 7 months working at nearby Montreal developer Illogica, Ubisoft confirmed to VGC that he's now returned. He's now returned to work on the Assassin's Creed series. Darby McDevitt told VGC in a statement, quote, "Yes, I have returned to Ubisoft. As I pondered my career over the past year, I focused on my desire to explore new ideas and unknown frontiers. Much to my delight, this is reflected in my return to Ubisoft to work on Assassin's Creed. I'm excited to continue my journey. Stay tuned," end quote. The writer's return means that Assassin's Creed has now regained one of its two most experienced lore masters. Janet Garcia, what does this one do for you?
I mean, I think it's interesting in the sense that, like, the fact that for someone to leave a company and then come back, I think is a testament to their initial, like, draw to said company. Like, I think the Assassin's Creed writer leaving and then returning to Ubisoft, like, obviously they went out there looking for something else and, you know, came back. Like, those journeys led them back to where they were before, which, you know, I think it's so complicated because there's so much, like, heavy stuff around Ubisoft and how they treat their employees. So I definitely don't want to imply that, like, wow, it must be just great to work at Ubisoft. But I think obviously there's a desire for this person to do something with this franchise. Like, I think, like, I would guess based on this language of, like, you know, I was thinking about my career and I was looking for new stuff and it brought me back here. I think this person went out and kind of explored and came back with, like, ideas to implement into the series and, like, a newfound, like, love for this thing. Maybe too, they just wanted a break and some time and some distance. So I think generally, like, this is a good thing. But other than that, I don't have, like, too many attachments to, like, the Assassin's Creed franchise specifically. What about you? What's your read on this?
Yeah, I don't think there's a super too much to read into here. I think this is a very regular, hey, like, I want to do something else. Like, I'm feeling a bit burnt out. Then he goes somewhere else and then realizes months later that, actually, I want to go back. Or maybe Ubisoft ups the amount that they want to pay him to come back or something along those lines. I think
That's true too.
I think there's probably something there, especially when you are a lead writer and somebody that is that historically has been core to the franchise, and somebody who knows the franchise and knows how to operate on that team for Ubisoft, and especially coming off of a previous Ubisoft story that we talked about on the show about how they are raising the pay for a lot of their employees, most specifically the higher paid employees, right? They're increasing by, like, I forget the exact percentage, but a sizable number of, like, people who are getting paid 100K a year, I think, are getting, like, a raise by, like, 20K, something along those lines. I think that is key to Ubisoft wanting to make sure they're able to keep some of their higher level employees, and I think that goes hand in hand with them wanting to regain some of their higher level employees as well that have left the company due to either them being tired of controversy or them seeing more promise going somewhere else. I think it makes a lot of sense for Ubisoft to go, hey, Darby was an asset and, like, he was valuable, and now that he's gone, we are having trouble filling the space. Give him more money and get him back over here so he can work on Assassin's Creed. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But good for Darby, and also good for Assassin's Creed fans, right? It's nice to have somebody who has worked on the series and worked on games that people really like, right? Like, people really like Black Flag, people really like Valhalla. It's good to see him coming back as a writer for folks who adored and appreciated those games, and so I think that makes sense. This news story goes hand in hand with our next news story, story number 5, which is our last story for the Roper Report. Far Cry's boss has left Ubisoft. This is Andy Robinson again at Video Games Chronicle. The most senior creative behind Ubisoft's Far Cry franchise has left the company, VGC can reveal. Dan Hay served as Far Cry's executive producer for a period of more than 10 years at Ubisoft Montreal, where he was credited for overseeing the series during its most prosperous period. Hay joined Ubisoft to produce Far Cry 3, which remains the series' highest rated game to date, and kept his role for virtually every installment since, including Blood Dragon, Far Cry 4, Primal, Far Cry 5, and New Dawn. The company veteran was most hands-on with Far Cry 5, on which he acted as creative director. Quote, after more than 10 years at Ubisoft, Dan Hay has announced that he will be pursuing a new chapter in his professional life, and he will be leaving on November 12th, Ubisoft told VGC. And again, this is another one that there's of course been a lot of controversy and, like, workplace stuff going down at Ubisoft over the last forever. But a lot of stuff has come to light over the last year, right? And both these stories seem fairly disconnected from that for the most part. This seems like a very natural, like, hey, this guy's coming back. Hey, this guy's peacing out after working on all these games. Jan, is there for you anything that you take away from this news story?
No, I mean, I think it's funny that they are side by side. It very much paints this like rotating door kind of picture, but a lot of companies are like that. So I don't think, again, these inherently are speaking to the changes that people are trying to implement at Ubisoft, like the work that the organization of Better Ubisoft, which is made of current and past employees demanding change at Ubisoft, is doing. I think that this is likely pretty divorced from those things. I think these are just typical career changes. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up going after the fact, because it's very vague. It's like the pursuing a new chapter in your life. Is this going to be a new chapter like you're somewhere new, or is it a new chapter like you're changing what you're doing in the field? It's not really clear what's next to come. Maybe they don't know yet. Maybe they can't say yet. But yeah, people, when you're high up, you can sort of have that freedom to make those kind of career moves at will. A lot of times, you have a lot more job security. You're known in the industry. There are, different ways for you to like land at different spots, and you can leave and you can come back and you can do it again. You can have that freedom of that mobility. And I think these are just examples of two people doing that. In one case they're returning, in another case they're leaving, and then they speak more to those people's personal career choices than like the larger temperature that's going on at Ubisoft right now.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out, right, is that this is Far Cry's most senior creative, right? And I think Dan Hay leaving probably leaves room for Far Cry to shift or move. I know like Far Cry 6 has had a lot of conversation. I feel like Ubisoft games in general have a lot of conversation around this, but it's propped up again with Ubisoft with Far Cry 6. The idea of, oh man, they just make the same game over and over again, and it's a good game, but like for a big portion of the audience, folks come to it and they're like, yeah, this is awesome. I love this. It's Far Cry. I want Far Cry. And then I think there's another portion of the audience that's like, yeah, but like I've been playing this since Far Cry 3. Jana, I know that you just finished Far Cry 6.
Yes,
Where do you want Far Cry to go now that you've beaten the game?
I want it to be shorter, which I know people are going to be mad at, and I do not care because I think it's way too bloated. I mean, it just generally is. If you have only, what is it, $70, right? $60? I don't know how much the game costs offhand. If you have only enough money to buy one game for the entirety of 1 year, then yeah, sure, get Far Cry, because it is actually a good game. I think there is a good game in there, and there's a lot to do in it. There's, treasure hunts, there's racing with your car, there's racing with boats, there's fishing, there's like all this multiplayer stuff. There's so much that I feel like, oh my God, is it Matilda or whatever, where you eat the cake, the giant chocolate cake? You're like, the kid has to eat like all the cake. I forgot what movie that was.
That's right. You nailed it. Matilda.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Far Cry 6 thing. I was like, wait, they got Matilda in Far Cry?
No, I mean, they have a lot of like DLC stuff. But yeah, when you're eating the chocolate, and granted, he does finish it. And that's how I felt spoilers for Matilda, when I finished the game. I was like, I did it. But what I really hated about my last 20 hours or something, my 40 hours or something with Far Cry, is I felt like I've done what was to be done, and it still just kept going, and it really, really overstayed its welcome for me. And I know people will say, well, it's meant for people who play 1 to 2 hours once a week for 8 months. I feel like, honestly, if I only had that amount of time, I'd rather play, to be frank, better games. And it's not that I think Far Cry is a bad game by any means. Again, it is a good title. I had a lot of fun, but then I had my fun, I had my fill, and it just kept going, and I felt like it didn't have more to say. I think another thing is something early on with that game, I was lightly impressed by the way I thought they diversified their missions, despite having the same inherent gameplay, right? You're going in, you're scoping it out a little, you're shooting, you're doing your thing, you're doing it again. That is the game, essentially. But I thought they found like fun diversity in the structure of the layouts, in the like mission angles, in what you were trying to accomplish, in the kind of enemies you encountered. But if you're doing that for 40 hours, eventually it's going to get repetitive, because you don't have enough of a diverse set of gameplay mechanics to carry yourself for that long. So, so that's kind of what I want to see next. Obviously there's like maybe some light changes I want to see in terms of, I wasn't a big fan of the armor strategy structure of like have a certain kind of round to deal with a certain kind of enemy. Like I personally didn't really like that. I didn't find myself using it very much. I found it a lot to keep track of. So I have little things like that I'd like to see. And obviously we can try to guess, what location or what era would you want to see them take next? But generally that's that's something I want a more parsed down, curated thing. And I think there is an in between. You know, I jokingly said to just cut it in half, but I don't think you need to go that far. But I think it needs to be a more parsed down, curated experience so that I feel more compelled to go and do that side stuff. And again, this is just my opinion, my perspective on, I play a lot of games. This is, you can argue, oh, it's because you play too many, you know, like it's not for you. It's for like the common gamer. Like, okay, sure. Like if that's your take, that's going to be your take. But, you know, Blessing asked what I wanted from Far Cry. And that's frankly what I want. I don't think it's good enough to warrant the amount of time that it demands of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think that of course is going to change from person to person, right? And I think for me, I've reached the point where I think I'm done asking for more from Far Cry. I think Far Cry being what it is at this point, I'm like, cool, I'm fine with it. I don't have to like be super into it, right? Like I think that serves its audience fine. And in terms of like the size, I'm right there with you with big open world games in general that are doing the same thing over and over again, right? Like I definitely understand where you're coming from in terms of that, because that can get tiring. And even as I'm playing through GTA San Andreas, one of the things that I noted early on in the game was that, man, they have such a good variety of types of missions. Like you're doing something different every single mission, and they like GTA does the thing where they use missions often to tutorialize new mechanics that they're introducing, or new types of missions that they're introducing, or new systems or whatever that they're introducing through the game. Whereas I could easily see like a Far Cry getting in 30 hours being like, cool, am I going to do another stealth thing here? Yeah, I'm going to do another stealth thing here. All right, I'm going to like take out this guy. Cool, I've been doing this for the last 30 hours. I definitely feel where that's coming from. I think for me, I think there's also the mixed thing of gamers or like audiences that just have different amounts of time available to them, because I'm sure for plenty of people they're like, hey, Far Cry 6 is like one of the 5 games that I bought this year, so I have 2 solid months that I'm going to spend with this thing, and I have the time to dig into this thing. Whereas somebody who plays a new game every 2 weeks or every three weeks or however long might have less of the patience or less of the bandwidth. And so like, again, it's going to change from person to person, but I definitely feel where you're coming from. But Janet, I will say that I'm very excited to see where Far Cry 7 goes. But Far Cry 7 is just so far away. If I want to know what's coming out to mom and pop shops today, where would I look?
The official list of upcoming software across each and every platform, as listed by the Kind of Funny Games Daily show hosts each and every weekday.
Out today, we got Shin Megami Tensei 5, aka Shin Megami You're the Only 10 I See 5 for Switch, Punk Wars for PC, and then Game & Watch The Legend of Zelda for handheld, which is... Wait, is that the Game & Watch Zelda thing handheld? Is that what that
Yep.
is? That's a weird way to do it. It said on handheld.
Well,
that's really
like
cool.
The game is the machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
the game is the machine.
An awkward
that
thing.
makes sense. Where did they announce this?
Oh, that was a while ago. It was during...
This is for the anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah, it was during... Well, I guess, but...
I forgot about this.
They didn't really do much for the Zelda anniversary. Like, I was kind of shocked at how little they did. I forgot when they announced this. It might have been, I'm guessing, a direct. I'm sure someone in chat remembers when it was announced. But yeah, I remember seeing this and being like, I'm not going to buy this one. I got the Mario one. I'm like, I'm going to leave this one alone because I never use my Mario one.
That's pretty cool. I might see if I can check that out, if I can get my hands on one, because I'm down to play some Legend of Zelda. We got an NVIDIA GeForce update for you. Remember that we've partnered with NVIDIA to keep you updated on all the latest GeForce RTX additions to your favorite games. From ray tracing to NVIDIA DLSS to NVIDIA Reflex, NVIDIA DLSS is now accelerating performance with uncompromised image quality in over 120 games and apps, with even more being added every month, including Battlefield 2042. With the early access launch, the new multiplayer first-person shooter supports NVIDIA DLSS, ray-traced ambient occlusion, and NVIDIA Reflex. DLSS delivers a 2x performance gain at 4K, and system latency is reduced by up to 28% with NVIDIA Reflex. We got 2 new dates for you. Terra Invicta has been delayed to 2022. And then Genshin Impact version 2.3 is coming November 24th. Janet, folks can go over to Patreon. They can go over to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong, where they can write in, let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong, so we can correct it for those watching later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames and podcast services around the globe. Nanobiologist writes in and says, the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, is a continuation of the original show, not a reboot, which is interesting. I feel like that still counts as a reboot, though, because like it's bringing it back from the dead after a while. Does a reboot have to start from scratch?
Is like it has to me start as a new like story, like it's a new storyline or concept is what
I think in the past that worked as you could use it that way, but I think now the connotation has changed.
We need, like we either got to find a new word for it or just say that reboot is the word. Because like there's not a word for
continuation. Yeah, this is like, you know, it's a big thing that's happening with movies too, where it's like, oh yeah, remember that movie 30 years ago? We're making a sequel.
Yeah, like Blade Runner, the latest Blade Runner.
Yes.
Is that would you call that a reboot? I guess
that's just a sequel.
That's just a sequel. Mm-hmm. I guess.
Revival is the word that some infinite corpse just said, and I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Revival's fine. I guess. Yeah, I guess that works. That works.
Like Hocus Pocus 2.
But here's the thing.
Excellent.
God of War 2018, that comes after the previous God of War games.
Yeah, it's a revival.
Reboot,
yeah.
It's a reboot because it's God of War. There are 2 God of Wars. If I'm
But,
buying
like,
a copy of God of War, you can get me 2 different games. Then why do they have the same title?
It's definitely a revival though. Sister Act 3, yeah, excellent. Yeah. Right? Because it's like the story continues. The gameplay.
Errol says, Errol like Meryl says, it's a soft reboot.
I feel like that's a really I feel like that's a really complicated one where it's like story-wise, canonically, it is just a continuation of the story. But we know that they have totally remade a lot of aspects of the game.
I think it's with video games, like you can redo the entire game and have the story still be a continuation, and it turns into like a different thing. Somebody in chat said reboot cool, which I kind of like.
But I mean, like Blade Runner, but you could say the same thing about Blade Runner 2049 in the sense that, like, you know,
that's true.
It's a different director that's like has a totally different vision that
there
vibes
are 2
well
games that are God of War. That is the #1 reason I say it's a reboot. There's God of War, and then there's God of War.
I don't know.
We have the 2018 so that we don't mess up the SEO on the stuff, and we can know how to distinguish the 2. And then I also think,
I think the fact that you could just call that God of War 5,
but you didn't.
But you could.
And why didn't you? But why didn't they?
Because it's been long enough. Yeah, long enough that they could own that again.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, they chose to. That's their angle was reboot, and I think too. I don't know if they use that language though when they marketed it.
That's right. I don't think that's right. I don't think that counts as a reboot.
I think it's a reboot. I feel like it's been a reboot until today. Now we're like, oh, is it it's a reboot?
No, I would never have described it as a reboot yesterday.
To be fair, yesterday I would have said
totally
reboot.
did, because it's like totally.
I get what you're saying.
It's not about the narrative. It's about like the core mechanics of that franchise have been completely like.
But then the latest Blade Runner has to be a reboot as well.
Well, games and movies are different things. Games and movies are different things.
Blade Runner,
like Metal Gear.
All the ones trying to bring in Proud Family versus God of War, like
that's a good one.
Different
That's a good one. Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say Metal Gear Solid 5 versus Metal Gear Solid 1.
But like Metal Gear Solid 5 is definitively not a reboot, but the mechanics
Metal Gear Solid 5 is
different.
called 5. It's not. Hey, look, I didn't name
God of War. They
could have
done the same thing for God of War,
but they didn't. It's the same reason that I like argue, which this one people don't agree with. I know some people are like, oh yeah, that's right.
The difference is, like,
put a poll in chat.
That name has so much weight to it. That name has so much weight to it.
So much weight that they rebooted it.
I think the reboot has to go beyond the title.
Yeah.
I think the actual content has to be.
Play. Yeah.
I think the content is also so vastly different. If you like God of War 2018, you might not like God of War. God of War.
Absolutely.
Same with Metal Gear.
That's why
Metal Gear Solid 5 is completely different.
One has a 5 and one doesn't have a 5.
But then you're going to the title.
Yeah.
It is. It's literally they added it. It's like when people say, "Oh well, Final Fantasy, Resident Evil 2," which this one no one agrees with me with, but I'm gonna stick with it anyway. Resident Evil 2, it's so different. It's like a new game. Okay, well then why couldn't they call it Resident Evil 8? Well, I mean, it's because it's not. Because it's not a new game. It is the same game remade, and they did a great job, and it's one of the best games ever.
Well, that's a remake.
It is the same. It is the same thing.
That's a remake.
Tim, what's up? How you doing?
What's up? I'm good. How are you?
Just so you know, you're live right now on Kind of Funny Games Daily. We're having a big debate about the word reboot and what it means.
Whether or not God of War's reboot.
You're the marketing master. You're the best person who I know at marketing. Now, how would you define a reboot? Does a reboot have to start a story from scratch? The reason why this comes up is because we're talking about Proud Family and the new Proud Family show. And we were calling it a reboot before, but somebody in kindoffunny.com/you're-wrong wrote in to let us know that it's a continuation. Then we started talking about God of War 2018 and whether or not that is a reboot. Where do you stand on this?
That's where the term soft reboot comes into play, where it is a continuation, but it doesn't necessarily continue all of the threads set up, but you kind of understand that it is going to continue some. Like Halloween 2018 is like a soft reboot of the franchise. It's a sequel to the first movie, but it's not a sequel to the rest of them.
Where do you stand on Blade Runner, the latest one?
The movie?
Yeah. Blade Runner 2049.
That's a sequel.
Okay.
How's that
I appreciate your input here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. See you later.
Bye, guys.
I'm gonna be honest, I hated his input.
Yeah, I think he's just as confused as we are. I think he's just as lost
there's
as
a
we
poll
are,
now here. Okay, let's see.
I mean, the poll's gonna side with us 100%.
Y'all.
A revival. It's definitely a revival.
So the poll is right now: is God of War 2018 a reboot, a sequel, or a revival? Right now, people are battling it out. These bars are going back and forth. A reboot right now has 13%, a sequel has 36%, and a revival is winning with about 50%. People are saying that God of War 2018 is a revival.
This is recency bias. Y'all heard the phrase revival and said this is hot in the streets, so we're gonna attach it. We've been talking about it as a reboot for years, like since it came out. I don't know anyone that.
You're not wrong.
This is literally how we've had this conversation. Now we're just deciding we're just gonna pivot to this one word.
I guess no
shades of one person who said in chat.
No one had like paid the right amount of attention to it. You know?
Is Mike still in here? Can you bring Mike in here, Kevin?
Can I bring Mike? You want me to just pull him in here? That seems really forceful.
I don't care. I gotta know his thoughts on this. Mike, what's up? You're live right now on Kind of Funny Games Daily.
Hello, everyone. This is Snowbike Mike. I have joined the conversation of reboot versus revival.
Okay, so you have been listening. What are your thoughts on this?
Here's the deal on my thoughts on this one. A reboot is a revival. I feel like those are the same words, just using the marketing mumbo jumbo. So revival, reboot, whatever you want to call it, that is what God of War 2018 is.
Okay. Thank you so much for your input, Snowbike Mike.
Janet, no, I want to know, Janet, do you agree with me? Janet, is that okay? Did I do well on that one?
I think that is an acceptable response.
Thank
also,
you, Janet.
For those who are watching this is literally the energy of our post shows. So if you like this, like go sign up so you can check out the post shows. Because like this kind of chaos based on like one very trivial question that the community may or may not care about, this is the energy we bring to the table.
See everybody.
Peace out. We have more You're Wrongs here. Nano writes in and says, the world, according to Jeff Goldblum, got watched enough for a second season and is out today. This season covers why are you writing this? What is this?
I really didn't like that show. I thought it was not informative in any way for anyone that like mildly understood the topic.
Nano's treating You're Wrong like it's his own like IGN. He's like, I'm just gonna write a news story in here. You gotta correct us on You're Wrongs. Let's see. Bader SN says Mike said that Microsoft was using Xbox avatars for Microsoft Teams, but they are a new avatar specifically for Teams. Thank you for that. Nano writes in and says, this is how 1 versus 100 is played out. One player is the one. 100 players are the mob, and everyone else is in the crowd. Selection is based on scores. A question is posed, and both the one and the mob must select an answer from 3 choices. If the one gets the question wrong, the game is over, and the prize money is split amongst the mob. If the one gets the answer right, members of the mob who got the question wrong are eliminated. The payout goes up for every 10th member of the mob eliminated. The one can opt to quit their winnings at various intervals or press their luck and continue on. The top 3 members of the crowd win an Xbox Live Arcade game. Oh shit. The crowd represents one of 3 helps available to the one, which can be used at any time to lock their answer. If the one fails to answer the first 3 questions, the helps are automatically used. The helps are I don't have to read the rest of them.
This is giving like board game energy when like I sit down with someone and they're like, no, it's not that complicated. Just listen.
I hate that. I
feel my brain zone out. I'm like,
it's like when they're like,
"Oh, just read me this."
Play one game, you'll understand. It's like, no,
that's so much better. Or when they do the examples, that's cool. But when like someone just busts out, I'm just gonna read you what's in this book. Like I can read. That's not my problem. I don't understand what this game is.
Janet, like there's only been like a handful, maybe 3, Game Over Greggy, which is the KF podcast predecessor episodes, where we were like, let's not put that up. That's not good content. Or we stopped midway. I think this is the only thing where we stopped midway through and we were like, we're not posting this. Let's just stop. This is a wash. And we were doing like the Batman, like some sort of board game, and it was horrible.
I love that. That was before we would do stuff live on Patreon. I couldn't imagine doing that on Patreon and getting halfway and going, shit, we've committed to this. Now we gotta finish it.
At least multiple people knew. I've only had like one piece of content. Like I did a podcast with my brother for a few episodes, and we recorded one episode. And after we were done, we're like, we both agree that was a terrible episode, right? We're like, yeah, it's shit. Just don't even, just throw it in the garbage.
And now we just upload it all. Now we don't pay no mind. We're like, well, it's recorded and we got ads. So
you know what? Like it's funny. Like I feel like if it got to the point where it was that bad, we would be like, all right, guys, we need to not post it.
Yeah,
we just haven't.
I'm sure we talk about it.
It's really rare to have content that bad, but when it happens, it's like everyone can feel it in the room. You know, it's like this is just not good. It's not good content.
2 out of those 3 times where we had a guest where it just it didn't work out.
I feel that
it didn't work. Out.
That happens. That happens. The one more thing here, Nanobiologist writes in all caps and says, "Bro, you talked about the world according to Jeff Goldblum at the start of KHD. You were wrong about it at the start of the show." To which I say, I don't recall.
Also, he wasn't wrong. It's a bad show that nobody cares about.
There you go. Oh, that's what I said. That's what I said. Yeah. No, you're right. I wasn't wrong about that. We absolutely nailed him. Kevin, you've been killing it today. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, Janet. Shout out to Snow Bike Bicycle. Tomorrow, or not tomorrow. Today's Friday. Next week's host for Kind of Funny Games Daily go like this. On Monday, it is me and Tim, and that is going live at a special time. I believe we're recording that at 11 a.m. if I remember that correctly. On Tuesday, it is Tim and Gary. Wednesday, it is me and Tim. Thursday, it is Tam and Tim. And then on Friday, it is me and Janet back at it like a bad habit. If you're watching this live on Twitch, after this is Mike playing some GTA and another game that if I think hard enough, I'll be able to recall. Is it Skyrim? It's not Skyrim. He's playing something. Battlefield, maybe? One of those games. You can catch that stream later on youtube.com/kindoffunnyplays. Remember, this has been Kind of Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday live right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. We have a Patreon post show for those that are subbed at the silver level of patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. So stick around for that. Otherwise, till next time, Game Daily.